I am a park ranger for a very obscure park in the northwestern edge of the Midwest. The park isn't very busy and has the usual local traffic, but on rare occasions we may get some new faces. Those who do visit and stay the night tend to talk about some animals pestering them. I tell them that I will do what I can, yet in reality there is very little I can do. Not even the conservation officers are willing to do anything. Unless there is some major incident that occurs, yet nothing has happened to warrant a call to them in 8 months. That incident involved a missing 27-year-old Caucasian male, Ryan Henry. I wasn't on call that day, but my coworker Helen was on call. She shared her report with me along with a police report. According to the reports, Ryan was found on Trail 4 between the Cracked Antler Cavern. Ryan was partially clothed when he was found. Ryan's camp was not far from Trail 4, Antler Camp 3. The camp was trashed, the tent looked to be scratched and torn. There was clothing all over the ground, most of it had splotches of blood. The blood test results came back as positive, belonging to Ryan. Footprints have been preserved in mud, yet have not been identified as Ryan or another assailant. Ryan had several injuries on his body. Left arm broke. Left hand's fingers, middle, ring, pinky, broken. Right ankle twisted. Large wounds taken out of torso. Jaw nearly dismembered. Scratches covering neck and chest. From what Helen had told me, I was lucky to be off that day. The thing is though, I saw Ryan the day before and even helped him pick his campsite. He was a nice guy, friendly and respectful yet a little reserved. He seemed to know what he was doing, as he had a lot of high quality equipment. He even lent me a new headlamp after I lost mine. I still have to this day. Now that some background stuff is out of the way, I began my patrol at 5 p.m. My schedule runs from 5 p.m. to 2 a.m. To my surprise, Helen was in tonight as well. Though she began her patrol shortly after I started, had already made my driving rounds. Helen radioed to meet at the Elm Shelter, the shelter outside of Trail 5. As I drove I stopped by a couple who I figured to be new to the park. "Man, excuse me. We are looking for the beach camp." He appeared to be less familiar to the park than his girlfriend/wife, as she shook her head in disbelief. "Me, beach camp is west of the park community center. The community center is down this road and you will take the road to the right. I have a map if you want to use that for other trails you want to explore." "Woman, what did I say, Paul?" "Paul, I just wanted to be sure we knew." "Woman, I have been here 6 times in the past 3 months. I have an idea of where shit is." "Paul, thanks for your help, sir." "Me, no problem. Have a good day." As I drove off I couldn't help but feel sorry for the guy. He didn't know the park and his significant other has, in my opinion, novice experience with the park. I arrived at the Elm Shelter to see Helen sitting on one of the tables. She looked up and brushed her hair out of her face before smiling. Her brunette hair was loose, but it seemed like she was putting it in a messy bun before I interrupted her. "Me, I haven't seen your hair that messy since that time you fell in a puddle of mud chasing a dog." Helen smiles and shakes her head. "Yeah. I need a haircut, but the place I go to lost its best stylist. Not to mention I did run late today." Me sits on the table next to her. "So, what did you call me over for?" Helen sighs deeply before handing me a photo. "It's bad." Me looks at Helen, then at the photo before taking it. Helen looks down at her shoes. The case has been reopened. Park is getting shut down again, and this time the photograph was of a woman missing one of her breasts and an arm. Her eyes were popped out of their sockets and her jaw was dislocated. To say that the photograph was bloody would be an understatement. I shivered at the process that this woman had to have gone through. Me still looking at the photo. "This is a totally different person though, Helen." Helen, her name is Kimberly Stanton. 30 years old. From the great state of Montana. She came by last night and died that night. Police are blocking the roads and other ways into and out of the park tonight. Me, she died similarly to Ryan it seems, after looking at it more. So why wasn't I told about the lockdown before I came to work today? Helen turned to look at me. "I wasn't told about it either. Nick told me before I called you. I think he may also want to keep some kind of normalcy till the lockdown is over." Me, "Well, thank you for telling me. So if we are under lockdown, what do we do after our shift?" Helen stands up and gestures to her company truck. I follow Helen to the truck and hop in with her. The ride was filled with small talk, which reinforced my crush on her. After about 5 minutes of driving, we arrived at a tower of some kind. It was made of wood and had a metal staircase and was a small nest on top to look around in. Helen began her ascent on the stairs, which creaked under her. I followed closely behind. Each step creaked and clanked under our feet till we reached the top. The nest was small and covered in glass. The inside had a large desk, a supply box, a ham radio, lamps, box of food, and a sleeping bag. It had the appearance of something from Fallout, which made me chuckle. The air smelled of mothballs and old wood. In the center of the nest is a hatch which leads to a ladder that takes you back down. As I took in the environment, Helen broke the silence. "Helen, you and I will be staying up here after our shift. If you need to get anything from your personal vehicle, I would do so before coming back here." Me, I'll take that offer. Looks at radio to see time. Time is 6:10 p.m. We have quite a bit of time before. Helen, shift will end an hour early. Nick's call. At that moment I get a strange feeling. A feeling that I'm not being told the full story. I look at Helen, who is going through the boxes and making a list. I can tell just from her demeanor that she is hiding something. Just as I was about to ask her, she turned around and handed me a list. Me, grabs the list. "What's all this?" "Helen, a list of things we will need for the night. I'll drive you back to your company truck." After dropping me off, Helen rolled her window down and looked around. "Helen, we will talk more later. I know you have questions." Before I could say a word, she took off. I was stumped. I have a list of things to get, the park is on lockdown, and something isn't adding up. It's almost as though I got myself into a big mistake. Yet it could be worse, I guess. 8 p.m. rolls around. I have collected a majority of the items on the list: water, butane for lamps, batteries, and extra food. All that was left was sleeping bag, blankets, and an extra first aid kit. I set off to gather the remaining items, which I figured would be found at the staff building near the main office. It's a small log cabin style building that was built in the late 70s. As I approached the staff building, my phone dinged with a notification. It was a text from Helen. "Helen, heads up, I saw a person running to the staff building. Might be a hiker or a camper. If it's a hiker, let them know that we are closing the park early and that they are closing early. If it's a camper, tell them to return to their campsite. I'm finishing up my projects, but I'll be at the nest in 40 minutes, see you there." As I put the key into the slot, I heard the sound of someone running behind me. Thinking it was a hiker or some kind of emergency, I turned around. When I turned around, there was nobody there. I could have sworn that I heard someone running towards me, but I can't worry about that right now. I have to get everything on the list and head out, before 9 p.m. The door was partially warped, so the door scraped the floor and was hard to open. When I tried to flip the light switch, the bulb popped. I rolled my eyes and made my way to the supply closet by using my phone screen. The dim light illuminated the doorknob to the supply closet. I opened the door and began looking for the supplies. The light from the setting sun was falling fast, as I searched for each item. The sleeping bags were easy to find, yet the blankets weren't so easy. The box for blankets was not in their original spot, usually next to luxury items. The box was nowhere to be seen, so I grabbed a first aid kit and began making my way out when, thump. I dropped the first aid kit and spun around. I fumbled for my phone when I heard something above me. I went back into the supply closet to see a box on the ground. The box just so happened to be the box for blankets. I grabbed 2 blankets and grabbed the first aid kit I dropped. As I closed the door, I heard the noise from above again. It sounded like something walking around, but that would mean it is on the roof, as the building has 1 floor. I began loading the truck when I heard the noise begin to speed up. I jumped in the truck and sped off when I hit something that ran in front of me. I hit the brakes and jumped out, as I feared I hit someone. What I saw was a puddle of some viscous sludge. The sludge was a sort of red color like blood, yet it smelled nothing like blood. The smell reminded me of burnt hair and vinegar. The smell seemed to linger on my clothing too, as once I got in my truck I still smelt it. I had to write down what happened, as it's policy for us to do if we get in an accident. The issue is I couldn't find what I had hit, so I marked down that I ran over a skunk. As I was writing, I saw something out the corner of my eye. A dog-sized thing ran by my truck. I rolled down my window just a bit to call out to the possible dog. As I wait to see the dog, I saw the brush on the driver's side door shake. I watched that spot, hoping that it was a dog or just the wind. What I saw put the fear of God in me. It charged at my truck, so I put the truck in drive and punched it to my personal vehicle. I drove fast, but that thing was on my ass. I could get a good look at it. It was so fast, but it almost seemed human. The shape of its body made me think it was human-like, yet it was running on all fours. It was not something I have ever seen, but if it was a prank, then damn they got my ass good. Yet, part of me doesn't think that this is a prank of any sort because of how devoted the thing seemed to get me. Just when I was about to reach my vehicle, it ran left of the road. I stopped next to my vehicle and unlocked it. Now, we are not allowed to have firearms on our person, yet I couldn't help but feel the need to have one at this time. I grabbed my holster and extra magazines, but I heard something running towards me and I spun around to see the creature and I aimed my handgun at it. Before I could open fire, something got its attention and made it dart towards whatever it was. I quickly stowed my handgun in my holster and put my coat on before driving to the nest. I drove fast, yet stopped when I saw Paul and his girlfriend's campsite. Paul waved to me and smiled at me, so I got out and walked over to them. They were cooking something over the fire, as I could smell the scent of cooking meat. Paul, hey, what's going on? We saw you driving pretty fast down the hill. Everything okay? I didn't want to make them panic from what I said, yet they may not believe me either. To prevent fear and my own embarrassment, I told them the situation of the park. Actually, I needed to inform everyone in the park of the lockdown. Woman, wait. Lockdown? For what? Paul, we didn't hear about one. Are we going to be okay? I understand your worry, but there is nothing to worry over. We only ask that you remain at your campsite tonight. Paul, okay. Yeah, we can do that. Turns to his girlfriend Ash, we should probably get stuff locked up. Ash, what exactly is the lockdown for, Ranger? There is a possibility that a dangerous person may be around the park, so a manhunt is currently being done to find this person. Ash, is he an escaped convict or something? I don't want anybody hurting me or Paul. Turns to Paul who is locking up their SUV. I had to come up with something. Anything? Yeah, it's an escaped convict. He had attacked someone and fled to the park. He should be found by now, but I haven't heard anything yet. In case you see anything, give our office a call and we will notify the police for you. Hand them a business card with numbers to call. Paul takes the card. Ash, thank you, sir. We will let you if we see anything. Take care now. I got back in my truck and made it to the nest just in the nick of time. 6 minutes before 9 p.m. I could see Helen making her way down the stairs to help me carry everything up. She smiled and thanked me for getting everything before turning on the ham radio. The radio roared to life, tuned to the frequency of the police radios. The police seemed to be talking about some people trying to get into the park and one person who snuck out of the park. This stuff was, according to Helen, out of our control, yet I still felt that we should be the ones down there helping them. Just when I was about to say something, Helen got up and walked over to the window. Helen, you are probably wondering why we are up here. To be honest, I didn't want anyone to get hurt. Mainly I didn't want you to get hurt, Alex. Should I tell her about what I experienced before arriving here? I'm not sure, as what if she interprets what I say differently? I also don't really understand why she wouldn't want me to get hurt. Sits up, get hurt? By who? Helen glances towards me and back to the window. No. It's not WHO will hurt you, but rather a what? At that moment I believed she knew what I had experienced. Then what is going to hurt us? Helen, I was told that there were monsters in the park when I was a little girl, but I never believed it till I began working here. I saw. Or think I saw something. Helen whirled around and slowly walked over to me. Her eyes wide in intrigue. Helen, you saw one. I think so. It was hard to tell. Helen, almost dog-like, but yet human-like? What is it exactly? Helen, I honestly don't know. The guy who trained me said they came from the cave system, but there were different types of monsters in the cave system other than what you saw. It chased me to my personal vehicle. I was worried that I would be attacked, that I grabbed my handgun. Lifts coat to show holster. Helen, smart. Yet I don't know if they are bulletproof or not. Chuckles, not going to lie. I thought you were going to get mad at me for having it on me. Helen, PPFFFTT. Fuck no. I carry even though we aren't allowed to. Actually I thought you might not like guns, but then again I do recall seeing a 9mm shell fall out your car. I take it you carry because of the monsters? Helen, not exactly. Let's just say, I don't trust Brandon. Brandon is our boss. He isn't the nicest person on the block, yet he gets shot done. I don't really have any issue with a man, yet he doesn't like Helen and Helen hates him. I'd think it had something to do with Helen snitching to his now ex-wife about his affair with the park accountant. Helen, actually. Brandon wanted only me to be the one up here. Me, why only you? Helen, I'm not sure. I don't trust him, but I also don't think he would do something to me. Me, but why was I excluded? Helen looked at me and sat next to me. She put her hand on my hand. It was soft, yet I could somehow tell there was more to the story with the tension around her. I looked into her sapphire blue eyes and then she looked away from me. Me, well, I'm sure he had a good reason. Anyway, thank you for bringing me here. Helen, I do care about. The sound of something slowly climbing the stairs was heard. The creaks and metallic taps of movement were barely audible yet still heard even during our conversation. As I heard the footsteps, a feeling of dread washed over me. I could feel my heart racing, so in a panic I began to turn off all the lights. Helen, catching on, turned off the ham radio. Metallic footsteps increasing in volume. The nest was devoid of artificial light, as the moon's cold glow illuminated the nest. As we watched the door, it dawned on us that we didn't lock the door. I crouched down and quietly made my way to the door, but just before I reached the door, Helen held her hand up. A gesture of pause. I obeyed the gesture and watched as a shadow slowly lumbered its way across the deck of the nest. The pace of the shadow was stretched out by the moonlight, yet the shadow had no resemblance of a man or woman. The shadow had horns, long wispy hair, either a protruding beak or muzzle, and long gangly arms. I dared not look out the window out of fear of seeing the horror that laid on the other side. Just when it couldn't get any worse, it screamed. It screamed like a dying horse mixed with a pig squeal. My skin crawled and ears rang from the sound, yet after it screamed, it spoke. The voice spoke in a manner of how a parrot might speak, broken and almost incomprehensible. It sounded like a man. Question mark, hunger. Hunger. Flesh I need. Yes. Flesh. So very hungry. Gasp, were man and female? She flesh sweet, yet man flesh more. Nourishing. Yes. I could feel a tear well in my eye, as I feared that we could be the next victims for police to find. I drew my handgun both out of fear and anger, yet Helen shook her head and mouthed no. I holstered my firearm and kept listening to the creature. Question mark, spits, where are they? Don't want the others to taste the flesh of he and she. They are mine. Mine. Scratches the metal railing, I can smell them. Sniffs the air, she is fearful, yet steady. Her need to protect something is her cause. Sniffs the air, he is fearful, yet filled with anger, laughs an urge to prove yet won't act. Helen pointed to the lock. I quietly turned the lock and moved away from the door. I could hear the thing breathing heavily and see its feet from under the door. I pull out the handgun again and wait for Helen to tell me to put it away, yet she only put her finger to her mouth. She slowly crouched over to me, but just when she neared me. Question mark, found you. The creature crashed through the window and before I knew it, I fired several rounds into the thing, causing it to roar in pain. It spun around to reveal its grotesque face, so I fired into its face. The final shot seemed to put an end to its attack. Helen walked around the corpse and to me. I looked at Helen, whose shirt was torn on the left shoulder. She had been scratched by the creature. The beast laid on the floor, its blood draining from the bullet holes. A similar smell perfumed the nest, yet I was unbothered by it. I can't say the same for Helen. She began to gag and cough from the stench. I rubbed her back and she nodded at me. Me, well, it's dead. I think. Gently kicks it with foot. Helen, fuck. I think we need to go somewhere else. Snaps finger, the beach house. That is our best bet. Me, beach house. Yeah, it should be somewhat safe, but that's close to the caves. If we are close to the caves, then that means we are more likely to see those things. Helen begins packing everything. Get my truck started and I'll bring everything down. Tosses the key to me. Me catches the keys, got it. Grabs a few items and begins to leave for the truck. Helen, Alex. Smiles, thanks for saving me. Me blushes, I'd do it again. Sprints down the stairs. I reached the bottom of the nest. I could hardly see anything but the outlines of trees and the truck. As I unlocked the truck, I heard the field phone ring. I whipped out the phone and answered it. The other end was static for a few seconds before I could hear a distressed whisper. Paul, hello? Hello? Please respond. Me, This is Alex with park security. Paul, oh, thank God. Alex, you have got to help us. Ash. She. Me, Paul, stay calm, we are on our way to your camp.